Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, in light of sustainable energy and everything that's going on in Africa in terms of that, we've got Mazwi Mkhulisi, Programs Manager at Vumelana Advisory Fund.
Okay, no.
Did I say that right? Mazwi?
Mazwi, that's correct.
No, not the name Hawina. We're African. Of course, I'm saying the other part, the Vumelana Advisory part.
That's correct. Vumelana.
Okay.
Sia Vumelana.
And meaning?
We agree.
We agree.
Yeah.
And what do you agree to?
What we agree to are agreements to make our land productive. So we are an NGO that operates in the land reform space. What we do is that we assist communities that have had land transferred to them through the state's land reform program to make sure that their land is kept productive.
We're going way ahead of
yeah,
ourselves.
We need to start right at the beginning.
So, are you telling me that there's an actual land reform program currently existing in South Africa?
That's correct. That's correct. So
okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain? Because my assumption was the EFF was trying to fight for land reform to begin.
Yeah, true.
I think a lot of people are actually not aware
that there's
an existing program. Yeah.
Sure. So KF.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chief. So KF, the state has a land reform program, and that land reform program is based on 3 legs. There are 3 legs to it. There is what you call a restitution program. This is where you can prove your dispossession under the Restitution Act. Okay. And then the state will investigate and validate that claim, eventually restoring ownership to yourself. You have options though. You could elect to have your compensation in cash in the land that you are dispossessed of, or you could have it as alternative land, or a combination of alternative land and cash. So that's a restitution program. Okay. The second element has to do with what we call redistribution program. This is where the state goes out proactively to identify strategically located land, acquires that, so it buys that land, so that it can then be transferred to those beneficiaries that are identified who can actually work that land. So that's redistribution program. Okay. The last program has to do with what you call tenure reform. So you will understand that farm workers in generally and historically are in a very precarious position where their rights of security in terms of tenure are shaky. So what the tenure reform program is there to do is to improve the rights of the farm workers so that wherever they find themselves.
Because I mean they don't have contracts, they don't have unions. Yeah, they have no one to. Yeah, okay.
Correct. So those
and most of them live where they work.
That's correct.
So once they're out of a job, like it's literally out of a home and a job.
Yeah. That's right. Okay. That's right. Yeah.
I mean, this is amazing, Kamu, because these guys gained independence in, let's just say 1994. Mandela came out of prison in 1990. Zimbabwe attained independence in 1980. And their land reform program seems way ahead in terms of logistics, policy, and implementation than the Zimbabwean land reform program.
Well, look, our Zimbabwean land reform policy is simple. Take what you see.
And not just the land, everything that's on the land as well.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think we're way, way ahead of these guys.
So, Mazwi, do you feel that there's a lot of awareness in regards, because I'm sure there are a lot of, if we didn't know this and we're in the urban areas, do you think people in the peri-urban areas and rural areas are aware that they have these rights and that there are these instruments that they can use?
Yeah, it's a very good question.
Yeah.
So... yeah, what do
I was expecting an EFF activist here today saying, no, we want our land and we're not being, only to find out that, wait, okay, you guys are actually working with things that are already in place.
Sure. So, KF, I'll confess this. I think the restitution program, the one that deals with people who have lodged claims for, to regain land that they were dispossessed of, is probably the one that is more known, because I know that the department has had extensive road shows to promote for instance, the recent reopening of people to lodge land claims. So that entails the road shows to get people to...
I mean, they work the best in rural areas.
That's correct, yeah. But then when it comes to your proactive land acquisition strategy, which is about redistribution, the reality is that I think more could be done to send out the message.
Yeah. I mean, I've got like a million gajillion questions.
Yeah.
Do you also, maybe another reason why people don't engage actively in wanting to try and do this is because of the red tape? Because I'm trying to think, if I actually go to government offices and say, hey guys, this land used to belong to my family, or no, I would want to acquire land because I feel like I want to farm, I've got the capital. How long does that process, how long are you looking at that process even taking? It takes me an hour and a half to get an affidavit signed at the police station.
And that's in an urban area.
Yeah. In Santa, not just an urban area. I mean,
wow.
So KF, I've been working with land reform communities now for about 14 years.
Wow.
And it's not...
How old are you?
$1 million question. 42. But
brother's taking care of himself.
Okay, let's go back to the subject. So our experience is that it's not unusual for a community to have the settlement agreement, which restores land back to them, concluded 14, 15, 20 years later.
Wow.
It happens. So we've seen many of those cases.
Okay.
It's very rare. And the reason for that, KF, is that the capacity within the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform to be able to process these claims. Because you can imagine, part of the work that they have to do once you've lodged your claim, obviously it's just to make sure that you've made a submission within the required time, but then the work after that, following that, to actually go and research your claim, go into archives that can actually prove and actually put you there that you actually are the rightful claimant for this.
Whoever's on the land at that point in time will probably then take you to court and contest.
Well, we don't
that claim
now. So you have different levels of say resistance. At that point, at that point, at that point of research, it's generally more cooperative because as a current landowner, you also want to have this process being expeditiously facilitated. So you'll cooperate with the officials. When they come to say, can we please map this, can we please see this and that, So there's not much resistance at that point. In fact, our constitution empowers you as the current landowner to actually engage with the officials sufficiently to get to a point where you can agree, terms. So, valuation of your land, so how much it would cost for the state to buy that land for the
claimants, and then either you can get either the cash value, or maybe even be moved to other land, the redistribution land. Okay, if you were working well on the farm.
So in this case, let's look at restitution. So KF traditional authorities saying they were dispossessed of this land where I'm now farming, and I've been farming for 15, 20 years. My requirement to the state would be just to say, I'm happy to sell you my farm at market value. So I'll bring in my valuer who will value the land and tell you what the price is. You as a state may want to bring in your own valuer, and then we find a middle ground here. So that is what our constitutional democracy provides for. So at the end of the day, what I should get as the current landowner is I should be able to arrive at what I feel is a fair and equitable outcome.
Okay.
And that is what essentially our constitutional democracy enshrines.
You see, I think my only issue is where... So why is the EFF fighting?
That's the question.
What is their conundrum here? Why are they opposing? Why are they saying that there is no land redistribution? Of course, they also talk of nationalization of state resources. But then their first push was land reform.
I think in terms of that, the honest truth is that, look, I mean, it's a political ploy, and it's the only card that they have that will definitely gain them popularity and suddenly get them numbers. I mean, the reality of it is that the ANC is very firmly like deep-rooted at the echelon, the top echelon of South African politics. For the EFF to come in, they have to have a very strong card in order for them to be able to,
and one that pulls the masses. Yeah.
And definitely, if you start talking about land redistribution and land
anywhere
reform,
in Africa,
people will definitely jump onto the boat. I mean, I think maybe in certain areas when I've heard them, raise their concerns about land reform, they like to look towards the pace at which it's going, the nature in which it's being handled, and they like to look at a more forceful and more aggressive method of actually reacquiring this land, of which in a democratic state it doesn't make a lot of sense, because then now you can't have people now just going around grabbing land,
Mazwi, and sort of in slight opposition to Kamu's point, do you not think that the government policies that are currently active are not just a way of appeasing?
They are.
Is it just not on paper?
In my opinion, they are.
Do you have stats to tell us, okay, this number of South Africans have successfully had their land restored to them?
Okay, so let me come to that. I think Kamu raises some interesting points. Yeah. So the current land reform picture in South Africa has a challenge of this nature. One, the pace of land transfer to beneficiaries, either for redistribution or for the settlement of claims, is very slow. Admittedly slow. I mean, and so we're saying we acknowledge it. It's based on the department's constraints in terms of finance, in terms of capacity to be able to push this. So this is very frustrating, because as I was saying earlier on, it means that as a dispossessed person, I'm still sitting at this stage, 21, 22 years later, and my claim has still not been finalized. So that's very frustrating. But what you're finding in our experience, that's just one part of the problem. If you look at the stats, there is currently about 7.4 million hectares of land that has been transferred since 1996.
That's actually quite a
that's a very big number.
I mean, this is combined for redistribution as well as for
restitution.
If you want to mix that up, you can also add another 4.8 million hectares of land that has been bought in just usual private sales, private transactions. So this one, but let's just focus on restitution and redistribution. What you find is that out of that about 7.4 million hectares that has been successfully transferred, the stats that we have are indicating that anywhere between 70 and 90% of that land is actually lying fallow. So it's not being productively used. And that's where we as Vumelana Advisory Fund come in. We believe that a lot of the current effort and energy around land reform can actually be wisely used to say, how can we make land that has been transferred productive, so that we don't just tick boxes that we have so many hectares that have been transferred, but then on the other end you've lost jobs that were existing on enterprises that used to be there. Revenue is gone.
State revenue, exactly. Taxes,
exactly. So and just to round up, so it is expected that politicians will find an issue or another that they will cling on to drive their agenda.
And use to drive their agenda.
Exactly. And so that's what we are finding, I think, in the main, in terms of the current noise around expropriation without compensation, those kind of issues.
He brings up a good point. And as Africans, especially millennials, and stuff, we talk about wanting land and saying we want our land back and so forth and so on. How many, if you were to do like a census and try and find out how many Africans at this point, black Africans, formerly disadvantaged, would actually want to start farming. I'm telling you, the numbers will be definitely low.
They'll definitely be low.
And once you give them the option of saying either we give you land or we give you cash, they're going to take cash.
Yeah, of course, definitely.
And with the South African situation, it's even worse, because you guys, most of they don't even have like a major colonial period. It was apartheid. So it's not as if you have a foreign government to say, no, you need to pay. For example, in Zimbabwe, it was the British government that was supposed to reimburse the Zimbabwean government for whatever land was taken back, willing buyer, willing seller. But in South Africa, you're saying your money as the taxpayer is what we're going to use to pay you for the land that you want back. So it's actually very counterproductive, because you're saying, and especially if the people don't utilize the land at the end of the day.
No, of which they won't. If you really think about it, there being land reform in South Africa, or the opportunity for land reform, is kind of futile, because if you look consistently throughout the country, people generally in South Africa are not hardworking. And I'm just saying that honestly. They're not hardworking. They assume a 9 to 5 is hard work. You understand what I'm saying? Oh, I just came from work. That's not hard work. You know, that's just a job. One. You know, I'm sorry, I'm digressing, but yeah. I mean, realistically, I don't see the point of land reform being the one thing that young people can actually look forward to happening, because they're not going to make use of the land. And even if they do take the land, they actually don't have anything other than, even farming, apart from farming, they don't have anything else they could think of doing with the land except owning it. They want to own to sell. So
own just to own. Title deeds. But go get a loan on the title deed.
Exactly. I honestly believe they actually would rather have the land.
But I mean, this is
use it for money.
But Kamu, this is, and you know what? In as much, you're very right in terms of, you know, wanting to work and what hard work is. Most of us were raised in metropolitans, unfortunately. We were raised in, you know, the suburbs, you know, the cities.
100%.
Whether it was my location or the ghetto or the slums or the, you know, the higher end suburbs, the northern suburbs. But we're all raised in this community.
The community,
The thing about, if you look at most white farmers across the region, these are people who grew up on farms, raised their children on farms. Their children went to farming schools, right? Loma Gandhi College and so forth and so on, right? And then so they grew up in a farming environment where, at the end of the day, that's what they know.
Exactly.
Most of them want to actually farm at the end of the day. And I think there needs to be a lot of, which is why the policy in terms of land reform shouldn't start with actually giving back the land or even taking land. It should start with education. So open up agricultural schools. So the foreman at Jacques' farm, his black foreman, his child must now be enrolled into an agricultural school.
Immediately, yes.
Because he's growing up on a farm, right? Goes to an agricultural school, goes to an agricultural university, comes back, and if you're taking any land for redistribution, it is now taken within that area to say, start there. Or he even becomes a mentoree, or like the Jacques becomes a mentor to him, teaches him, because there's no other way. These people have had years and years of farming experience from the minute that they got here.
And it's all practical.
It's inherent. Across Africa, it's inherent within the white community that they grew up on farms.
They even look like farmers when they come out the womb.
I mean, they come from wherever they're coming from, and they're in Senton City in their farm shoes.
They come out with
with no shoes at all.
Felt schoons and socks and shorts.
So, I mean, it's across Africa, the issue of land redistribution is not just a simple matter of policy and you know, okay guys, let's get the government to do this and that. It's more about it actually being inherent. So it's a way of life.
So KF, you're making some good points there. And so what we say as Vumelana, what we understand is, when people were disconnected from the land, they lost more than just the land. They lost, you know, the whole architecture, the whole relationship to land, the whole networks, the whole linkages to markets and so forth. So what we provide is a set of advisory services to say, okay, the state has transferred this farm to you, and in most cases, you may have the farm but not have the capital to operate the farm, to invest on the farm so that you can expand. Even if you have that, you may not necessarily have the skills to farm. Even if you have the skills, you may not have the access to the markets, actually, to take your produce to.
And this is something that these people have been building for years on end.
Exactly. And so one is talking about what is loosely called tight value chains in agriculture. All that means is that those that have been exposed to production in that space,
Kamu owns the bank that KF is getting his money from to farm, right?
You know,
and
the
then
insurance,
Mazwi is the one
inputs,
owns Pick and Pay,
right,
where I'm going to sell my produce to. If we remove KF and put Nicola, Kamu and Mazwi are going to think, okay, no, we did not deal with you before. We're not aware of the system. I mean, it's
exactly.
It's way more intricate.
So our advisory services are meant to really try and make land reform much more inclusive, in a way that also broadens the participation of our communities in the economy of the country. So we are for markets that work for the poor, markets that actually are pro poor. So that's what we're all about.
Is this conversation being had on a regional level? Is this a conversation that the AU has? Because I think the AU should just be shut down and no borders should become the AU.
I swear.
Because I think we speak more in terms of Africa than even they do. And is the land issue an issue that is being discussed on a regional level? SADC, ECOWAS, AU. are these conversations, being had? Parliament. Let's not even go that far.
What, South African Parliament?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I mean, they
actively being engaged, or they just go and get water and then one person raises says something.
They just use it as a method to insult each other, really, because I've never actually heard them have an extensive discussion based on land reform that actually comes out with positive and forward-thinking solutions.
Exactly. The conversation we're having right now has, I'm not saying that we are policymakers, but has touched on all the main areas.
Yeah.
So part of our effort to actually take this debate to the country wide across is through what we have formulated over a 2-year period in what is called land reform scenarios. So what we did here was, accepting that there's just so many different and polarized views around the future of land reform in the country. We got together a wide range of participants, people who work with land issues every day. We got about 40 of these people that we worked consistently with for about a year. To say, for a moment, let's just stand back and stop convincing each other, one another, about what should be or what is land reform. Let's just imagine where South Africa's land reform program will be by 2030. So over the next 15 years, what could happen? And so out of that, 4 sets of stories have come up. We can touch on those, if we have time.
Yeah, sure. Let's touch on 1 or 2, yeah.
Yeah, so for instance, we're talking about, in introductory remark, we spoke about the EFF and other recent, pronouncements around expropriation without compensation.
I think
that's actually, one of what you're saying. It could be one of the possibilities that we find ourselves confounded with over the next 15 years. That is, if the landless masses in the country continue to feel marginalized and ignored.
It will cause unrest as well.
It will cause unrest.
Yeah.
It will polarize the nation. It will undo a lot of the, unity that South Africa is based on.
Yeah.
It will unravel a lot of the constitutional democracy that we've built quite hard. So
you
that's
can go straight to the point. It'll
be disastrous.
Yeah, racism.
Exactly.
That's where it starts. Inequality is, especially in South Africa, is based on racism.
Yeah.
The black people are angry because white people still make 5 times more according to the latest budget. Yeah.
Right. So that's one scenario. The other scenario speaks of what could happen if your traditional leaders go into collusion with those that are in power in what you can call a land for vote swap, where you have a dominant party feeling like they're losing power, and in order to maintain that, they strike this kind of partnership with traditional leaders, so that you then have the politically connected and the elite.
In-depth thought has been put into this. I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed.
There is. And so that could happen. And so what you'd find there is that you have what you call connection and capture. So that those that are connected, essentially.
Yeah, I saw that in the book. Yeah.
Did you see that?
Did you put this together?
That's right. Yeah, we did that. As Vumelana.
Wow.
This is a lot of research.
And
it is.
Yeah, with some participation from, like I was saying, a whole range of participants, academia. Commercial farmers,
I'm actually thinking of the cost of the illustrations because this is quite expensive.
Yeah.
I've seen a few quotes on illustrations. It's not
easy. Cartoons are not easy.
No.
But if I may, let me just round it up. Then the other scenario, which we call hard bargaining and compromise, this is a scenario that sees the state acknowledging that it cannot do and be everything in itself. And that for the country to actually get to a resolved and final state of land reform, because land reform should come to an end. We can't have this on the table forever.
Yeah.
So in an effort to actually bring this whole process to an acknowledged end, the state, allows various parties to come into the table, because currently there is a feeling that the private sector, for instance, has not really been given a say
in regards to land
contribute to land reform.
Okay.
Just to give you an example, we deal with a whole lot of examples in Northwest, in Eastern Cape, in Limpopo, where you have your retailers going into partnership with smallholder farmers for supplies.
Which is perfect, yeah.
Which is perfect. That's what we need. So, but those examples are not what we're getting being publicized enough. So, with the result that people hold on to,
yes, exactly.
to these stereotypes of now white people are clinging on to the land to empower themselves. There's a lot of goodwill among South Africans, I think. And what you're saying is, through these scenarios, let's look at that and see how far we can actually extract from these examples and influence our policy in a much more informed way. So that's what you have there as just a high level, some highlights on the scenarios.
It is very
This
intriguing.
is highly intriguing.
The reason, see, this is something that, for instance, like people like us can take a page out of this and actually take it home and utilize some of the things.
I think the whole of Africa can gain something from this.
The problem
was there a case study? Do you guys do case studies in other African countries to come up with your conclusions?
So interestingly, we just did some unrelated research, KF, that actually led us to accept that, look, if you are looking internationally to find any case studies that can act as reference point for South Africa, you're not going to find them.
No.
South Africa is a very unique case.
Yes, it is a unique.
You're telling us.
and so they're very nuanced things that are that really mean that we must find and tailor make our own solutions. For instance, a simple case. We talk about exchange trips where we go to certain countries, or we take our politicians to other countries to see just how well their farming operations are. But a basic issue, climate soil combination issues. You find that those countries have got a completely different set of context to what you have.
There might have been more work that needed to be done on soil here than in any other country. For example, Zimbabwe, where definitely it's much easier for your small farmers to farm because they don't need that much input.
Exactly. So, I mean, those factors really go to illustrate that what we have is a very unique case in South Africa. What we do need to do is to have these conversations around our dinner tables, around our pubs, and really begin to say, how can we shape the future that we want?
Hey, Baba, we can't have this conversation at the pubs. There'll be someone from the EFF there. Hey.
Well, why is it there's always someone from the EFF in the pub?
No, Mazwi, I mean this is that was an amazing conversation. I think I haven't been this enlightened in a while, and it's kind of hard to enlighten me.
It's one of the most meaningful that we've had in the last couple of weeks.
No, this is amazing. How do people get a hold of Vumelana? Social media, emails, contact numbers.
Correct. So you can get us on www.vumelana.org.za. And then as for the scenarios, the stories that you just shared,
and your other publications, pamphlets,
I've got some publication here. You can check the website. It's landreformfutures.org.
Landreformfutures.org.
And then you can reach us on 011-612-2000. That's where you can find us.
Thank you very much, Mazwi. That was